Was this is the same cousin in the original owner's memory? This was certainly the polar opposite from the one in her memories. So all it took was a pen? It was that easy? And it was all paid for from the $5 million she got from Zhangqi. The car quickly took Zhang Yuhuan back to Zhang's mansion. Lang Jinji got out of the car and opened the passenger side door for Zhang Yuhuan as he said to her, "If you need help with anything next time, you can reach out to Secretary Cheng directly." He paused and went on, "Don't go disappearing again. Grandpa will be sad." Zhang Yuhuan asked directly, "I do have a favor to ask cousin." Lang Jinji did not expect the directness from her. He paused for a second before asking her, "What is it?" "Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming need to go to school." Lang Jinji had to think about it for a minute or so before he realized those were the names of the two boys that she had brought back from the welfare agency. Yes, school indeed. But I am afraid they would fall behind in class. We should arrange for tutors for them first before having them start school. Let me have Secretary Cheng handle this. There are still 10 days or so left of the winter break. They ought to be able to learn quite a bit from tutors during this time, said Lang Jinji in a very organized manner. Zhang Yuhuan nodded and said to him, "Thank you, cousin." Lang Jinji was a busy man. He quickly got back into his car and drove away after he had dropped off Zhang Yuhuan. Zhang Yuhuan went inside with her big bag of toys happily. The mansion was very quiet. There was no signs of Xu Yushan, and Zhangqi and his wife were not home, either. "Grandpa Lin? Have they had dinner yet?" Zhang Yuhuan asked the butler. Of course Butler Lin knew who she was asking about. Troubled, he shook his head and said, the servants had checked on them a couple of times, but there were no sound. Then, we think they are waiting for you, miss? Zhang Yuhuan was a little surprised. They were waiting for her? Have the kitchen servants start preparing dinner and bring them up when they are done, said Zhang Yuhuan, before she changed out of her shoes and ran upstairs with heavy steps. When she got to the third floor, she found Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming sitting there in the spacious living room and just looking at each other motionlessly. Zhang Yuhuan slowed her steps, but her slippers wasn't being very helpful. It made slapping noises against the floor as she walked toward them. The two boys turned around and looked when they heard the noise. Their lips moved, and it was then when they realized they had no idea what to call her. Zhang Yuhuan was already in front of them in a few steps. She put down the big bag in her hand, pointed, and said, "New toys. Would you like to take a look at them?" Being in the welfare agency, even kids in 3 or 4 years old had lost interest in toys, let alone someone their age. They care more about what there was to eat than what there was to play with. Li Jinyuan stuttered a little. "Sure. We will take a look." Huo Chengming didn't say anything, so Zhang Yuhuan assumed he agreed as well. She sat down cross-legged and grabbed a pair of small scissors from the table. She continued to talk to them as she was opening up the toys. "I went to see my cousin and my grandpa today." "What grades were you in before?" "I am going to have my cousin arrange for you to return to school." The two young boys fell silent. They were both smart kids. They were able to glean a lot of information from the simple thing she said. She wanted to arrange for them to return to school, but she asked her more distant cousin to help instead of her father. That must be because she did not have a good relationship with her father, but reaching out to her cousin for help, that must still be a lot of hassle. Why aren't you talking?" Zhang Yuhuan just finished opening up a box. She put it aside and looked up at them. "4th grade, said Huo Chengming. Li Jinyuan blushed and wouldn't say anything. Zhang Yuhuan leaned into him with both hands on the ground and asked softly, "Well, what about you?" Li Jinyuan kept his mouth tightly shut for a long while before he finally spoke. "I have never been to school before, just a little self-study that I have done at home in the past." He would not look her in the eyes when he said that, as though he was worried that he'd detect any signs of surprise or repulsiveness. Zhang Yuhuan nodded and said, "Okay, I will keep that in mind." They couldn't help but looked at her. She had already returned to her original position and went back to opening up the toys, her face looking as normal as usual. Li Jinyuan let out a sigh before he said softly, "What should I call you?" "Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that," said Zhang Yuhuan as she put down the pair of scissors. She thought about it long and hard and said, "Since you were adopted as my mother's sons, that would make you my Didi." Tian. Didi means younger brother. Zhang Yuhuan was a single child in her previous life, so this all felt very novel to her. The corners of her mouth turned upward and she said, "You should call me Jie. Tian. Jie means older sister." Huo Chengming seemed reluctant and suddenly added lowly, "How old are you?" Zhang Yuhuan replied slowly, "I am 12. Older than you, right?" Huo Chengming lowered his head. "I am 13. Zhang Yuhuan opened her mouth and was about to say, "Wow, I really couldn't tell." But luckily she was able to stop herself before the words escaped. Boys, after all, developed slower than girls. Not to mention that they were raised in a welfare agency, they definitely did not have enough nutrients to grow. All right, Zhang Yuhuan changed her tune right away. Gay. Tian. Gay means older brother. Hearing. That term out of the blue, Huo Chengming froze on the spot. Even his sight froze as though he was stunned greatly. A few seconds have passed before his ears started to burn. Bit by bit, his entire ear turned beet red all the way to his neck. Zhang Yuhuan cocked her head and looked at Li Jinyuan. "Well, you must be younger than me," Li Jinyuan said softly. "I am also 12, and my birthday is November 5th. Zhang Yuhuan looked at him with surprise. What a coincidence. "Mine is November 4th. She had the same birthday before and after her transmigration." Zhang Yuhuan pointed at herself and said, "So I am still Gigi." Li Jinyuan opened up his mouth but failed to make a sound. Right then, the maid brought up dinner. "Why don't we have dinner first?" Zhang Yuhuan generously let the male lead off the hook. The two boys were finally released from the awkward situation and quickly stood up and walked over to the dinner table. Zhang Yuhuan stayed where she was and started unwrapping the new clothes. When she was finally done, she yawned and said, "Your new clothes are on the couch. I am going to bed." They responded softly. Zhang Yuhuan turned around and went into her bedroom and crawled into bed. It was tiring to have to get up so early. Zhang Yuhuan didn't wake up till the next morning. Zhongqi still hasn't come home yet. But the tutors that Lang Jinji arranged had already arrived. Zhang Yuhuan had the tutors headed to the 3rd floor directly. The tutors brought all the textbooks with them, so as soon as the brief introduction was over, they practically started the cramming session immediately for the two of them. Zhang Yuhuan joined them for the first 2 days before she called it quits. Now, whenever a tutor started talking, she'd start to yawn right away. In order to take a break from it all, she went shopping once again, shopping for toys, shopping for clothes, and anything else needed for when school starts. Stuff like backpacks, pens, etc. A week had gone by quickly, and Zhongqi and Xu Yunhui finally returned to the Zhang's mansion. Xu Yushan wasn't able to have her gathering. Naturally, she was in a very foul mood. She had been waiting for this moment to wreak havoc for Zhang Yuhuan. When Zhang Yuhuan came downstairs and saw the three of them on the couch, she beat her to the punch by saying, "Xu Yushan told me a few days ago that you are planning on having her change her last name to Zhang and recognize her as your own daughter." Naturally, that idea had been on Xu Yushan's mind, but she has yet to say that out aloud. Zhongqi's face dropped on the other side. When Xu Yunhui saw that, she knew this wasn't going to go well. She and Xu Yushan had always taken the lower position, in front of Zhongqi, and always pretended to be someone agreeable, considerate, and never have their own agendas. Before Zhongqi was able to say a word, Zhang Yuhuan continued, "No way. If she becomes your daughter, then what about me? If she's going to be a Zhang, then I might as well be a Ding." The first half of the sentence was all right. The second half made Zhang Chi's face changed color. He had clearly learned his daughter's character by now, whatever it was that she spewed out. She had always followed through with them. Whether Xu Yushan became a Zhang is of no importance. If Zhang Yuhuan really changed her surname, he would certainly turn into High City's laughingstock. That and Zhang Qi had always have a very suspicious personality. Zhang Yuhuan's words had put doubts in his mind. Xu Yushan had never said anything like that in front of him. Naturally, Zhang Qi wouldn't admit to anything right away. He merely said nonchalantly, "Yushan is older than you. Naturally, she couldn't be my daughter." Xu Yushan turned pale immediately. But Zhang Qi didn't even look over at her. He merely continued, "But your brother is different. He is your real brother. Naturally, he will become part of the family. What about my mom's adopted sons? Would you recognize them as well?" asked Zhang Yuhuan. "I can recognize them as adopted sons," said Zhang Qi. Zhang Yuhuan cocked her head and smiled at Xu Yushan. "That's more like it." The original owner was too deep in the situation to see it all, clearly. But Zhang Yuhuan didn't have the same problem. She could see clearly from where she stood. Zhang Qi has always been a tyrant. He enjoyed the satisfying feeling of giveth it and taketh it away. One reason he brought Xu Yunhui into the house was because she was good at acting in front of him. She was tender, drama-free, never asked for anything. She played right into the role that pleased him. A second reason was that Xu Yunhui was not the same as Ding Yuxue. Ding Yuxue was from a wealthy family, but Xu Yunhui was completely dependent on him. He raised her above her situation, and he could also force her right back down. He enjoyed the feeling that he has complete control over her fate. From where he was now, Xu Yushan had said stuff that she shouldn't have, and now he needed to push her down and teach her a lesson. Not to mention that Xu Yushan had never been an important character in his life. He had only been nice to her because he enjoyed the feeling of being looked up to and respected after his kind gestures. Zhang Yuhuan smiled and said, "I am going to have breakfast upstairs." Then, before Zhang Qi could even react to her, she quickly took the tray from the maid, turned around, and went back upstairs, leaving behind her Xu Yunhui and her daughter, who were both pale from anger. Xu Yunhui was still doing better. After all, she had been putting up with so much all these years. This was nothing she hadn't already seen. But Xu Yushan was too young, and she had just graduated from her past life to the mansion of the Zhangs and became a Miss Zhang. She had always felt that she and her mother were in favor with Zhang Qi, and that it was only a matter of time when the troublemaking brat was kicked out of the house. Now she had just heard her own death sentence. She couldn't change her surname. She would not become a legitimate Miss Zhang. The shock from this new development, compounded by the fact that Zhang Yuhuan pointed straight at her nose and shouted at her, and that she wasn't able to have her gathering, Xu Yushan snapped. With a quivering voice, she asked, "Daddy, why?" Zhang Yuhuan was long gone after she had dropped the bomb. She went upstairs with breakfast, and Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming were already waiting by the dinner table. Hearing Zhang Yuhuan's footsteps, they both looked over at her, and, all of a sudden, they both abruptly got up and reached over to help her with the tray. Li Jinyuan grabbed the left side of the tray. Huo Chengming grabbed the right side of the tray. Zhang Yuhuan was trapped in the middle. She paused for a moment. Who should she give the tray to? This was awkward. Zhang Yuhuan grabbed the tray and tugged it backward forcefully before she looked and, with feigned confusion, asked, "Why are you two fighting with me?" Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming both paused for a second and awkwardly let go of the tray. "I wanted to help you with it," said Li Jinyuan awkwardly. "It's heavy." "It wasn't that heavy." Zhang Yuhuan took the opportunity when they let go to quickly put the tray down properly. "All right, let's eat." Zhang Yuhuan grabbed a paper towel and wiped her hands with it. "Don't we need to go downstairs?" asked Huo Chengming softly. It wasn't quiet when Zhang Qi returned home. They could hear it clearly from the third floor. They could even see what's going on downstairs clearly from the third-floor banister. No need. Zhong Yuhuan picked up her chopsticks and, without looking at it, said cheerfully, "From now on, it will be fine, just the three of us." Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming both paused. Just the three of them? Zhong Yuhuan was worried that they didn't understand the meaning of that, so she looked up and added, "You see, my father, he has a new family now. He has a new wife, a new son, a new daughter. My mother was gone, so it's just us now." The two boys just stared at her. With the chopstick still in her hand, she frowned slightly. Her tone had a forced calmness and strength. She was probably sadder deep down inside. She wasn't the same as them. She had never experienced any hardship before. It must have hit her harder than it would have hit them. They both lowered their heads, and for a moment, there nobody said another word. Halfway through breakfast, fighting noises could be heard coming from downstairs. Zhong Yuhuan figured that Shu Yushan couldn't contain herself anymore and blew up. "Downstairs," said Li Jinyuan in a low voice. Yeah, they are fighting now. When I went downstairs to pick up breakfast, I ran into Shu Yushan. Daddy planned to recognize her as a Zhong's daughter and formally have her name changed, so I said only if he will recognize the both you too," said Zhong Yuhuan half seriously. Naturally, she did not mention the part where she dropped the bomb and quickly left the scene. Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming both put down their chopsticks at the same time. "You didn't need to—" Huo Chengming squeezed the words out of his throat softly. Li Jinyuan also said in a low voice, "You didn't need to do that for us." Zhong Yuhuan looked down slowly. Well, she really only just brought it up a bit. It wasn't that much of a big deal. But both Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming had their brows furrowed deeply, their mouths shut tightly, as thought she had made some incredible sacrifices for them. The noises from downstairs got even louder. Li Jinyuan thought to himself, was this the environment that she had been living in? Huo Chengming couldn't help but take a sneak peek at her also. It wasn't supposed to be like this for her. Zhong Yuhuan just kept her head lowered and continued eating her breakfast earnestly. The worse the fight, the better. She didn't mind this as music for her breakfast time at all. After they've finished breakfast, the tutors arrived on time. Of course, Zhangqi didn't want outsiders to witness the fighting among his family, so he left angrily for work, leaving behind Shu Yushan bawling with her arms wrapped around Shu Yunhui's neck. "Why? She's Daddy's daughter. So am I. Daddy likes you. He had you moved into here. Why can't I be his daughter?" Shu Yushan gritted her teeth in seething hatred. She had had a very rough childhood because of her status. She understood clearly that she was a bastard child from an affair. And the more aware she was, the more envious she was. She had been wanting this for so long, to become a real Miss Zhong, so nobody else would ever look down on her again. But now, Zhong Yuhuan had ruined it all for her. "Why did you go and say that to her? Do you see me saying anything like that to her?" Shu Yunhui was upset too. She had it all planned out, but after this whole fiasco, she also felt angry and awkward, but she had no choice but to pretend that she was still very understanding. Shu Yushan screeched, "I didn't tell her!" Naturally, Shu Yunhui did not believe her. Zhong Yuhuan couldn't have come up with something like that unless Shu Yushan had told her. How old was she after all? What did she know? Before today, whenever she threw a fit, she'd just throw some bowls, pull a disappearing act, or escalate it to causing the Zhongs to lose some business deals. Nothing that helped her own cause. All she did was make Zhangqi hate her more and more. She wouldn't have the ability to set Shu Yushan up. That was not possible. So the only plausible explanation was Shu Yushan couldn't keep her mouth shut and leaked the plans to Zhong Yuhuan. Every time something didn't go Zhong Yuhuan's way, she would go scream and shout in front of her father. That was the standard pattern of her behavior. Shu Yunhui said with a darkened face, "All right, stop crying now. You leaked the words and now you—" have to suffer the consequences. Just stay low for a while and don't stir up any drama. Things will go better once your brother becomes part of the family. There wouldn't be much more that girl could do. You will be set once your brother takes over the family business. Shu Yushan didn't feel comforted at all. All Shu Yunhui ever did was tell her to stay low. She had been staying low this entire time. And what did that ever get her? Nothing. Shu Yunhui didn't understand her, neither did Zhangqi, her brother. Who could tell how things would go with her brother? He too would get married one day. Shu Yushan gritted her teeth and turned away. It was the first time she didn't just comply with what her mother had asked of her. And by now, Shu Yunhui was already thinking about what she could cook up to take to the office for Zhangqi. Her mind was always occupied by what more she could do to butter up to Zhangqi. She hadn't been able to spare the time or energy to consider her daughter's feelings. All right, why don't you take some time to calm down? Next time this happens and you upset your dad, not even I could save you, said Shu Yunhui as she stood up. Shu Yushan's face was twisted. She'd put her hopes on the Nans now. That's right, the Nans. The banquet with the Nans was set for the 8th of next month. It was right around the corner. School had started before the date of the banquet. Zhang Yuhuan had to go to school, along with Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. Zhang Yuhuan was a sophomore in high school, the worst time of it all. Zhang Yuhuan wasn't thrilled about having to study all over again and take the midterm and final examinations, but she felt much better remembering that she now has 2 more companions. At least she wouldn't be the only one who had to get up early, Lang. Jinzi gave her a call early in the morning and told her that all the paperwork for the boys to start school had been taken care of. Since they didn't want the boys to fall behind in class, they had arranged for them to start as freshmen. It was quite normal for boys their age to be freshmen in high school after all. Many boys tend to start school at a later time. Naturally, the tutors would continue to come. It'd be much more efficient for them to have tutors at home while getting used to everything at school. Zhang Yuhuan had the maids pack their book bags before taking off with Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. Secretary Cheng was already waiting for them outside of the house. He would be driving them to school today and help with whatever remaining paperwork there were. Good morning, Secretary Cheng. Zhang Yuhuan greeted him cheerfully before she crawled inside of the car and waved at Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. The 2 of them were still standing outside of the car, looking at her. She had on a little red dress and a bunny backpack on her back. When she looked at them, she had one arm on the by seat supporting her weight, her head tilted slightly, and a bright and tender smile on her face. They thought at the same time, they could really go back to school now? Then when would they be able to be the ones that would take care of her? Zhang Yuhuan attended the prestigious Murphy High School. The majority of the students here would be leaving overseas for higher education before the senior high school entrance examination. When Zhang Yuhuan said she was about to start high school and wanted to move closer to the school as the reasoning for asking for $5 million, that could only fool someone like Shu Yushan, who had never encountered people of this caliber. Their car stopped in front of the school. Outside the front door of the school, there were parked many luxurious cars. Most of the boys and girls getting out of the cars were accompanied by either the chauffeur or their parents' secretaries. Rarely were any of them accompanied by their mothers. Zhang Yuhuan placed her hand on the door handle but didn't open it immediately. Instead, she turned around and smiled at the 2 boys. Don't be nervous, just go inside with me. Li Jinyuan nodded once. Huo Chengming didn't say anything. Zhang Yuhuan stared at Huo Chengming and suddenly blurted out, "Oh, we've forgotten to get you a haircut." Her stare had made Huo Chengming feel uncomfortable all of a sudden, and he said, "That's all right." Zhang Yuhuan looked over at Secretary Cheng. "Secretary Cheng, do you happen to have a pair of scissors with you? We have a pair in the car." Secretary Cheng understood what she was planning on doing. He thought that was a bit of a crazy idea, but figured it wouldn't matter all that much as long as she was happy. So he pulled out a pair of scissors and some tissue papers and handed them over to her. Zhang Yuhuan adjusted herself and sitting somewhat sideways on her seat, she leaned closer to Lee Jinyuan. Lee Jinyuan couldn't even look at her. He immediately closed his eyes subconsciously. Jung Yu-hwan had a tissue paper in her open palm and placed it right under Lee Jinyuan's bangs. Immediately after that, she raised the scissors and snipped and trimmed his overgrown bangs. Lee Jinyuan could feel her breath on him. He sat there nervous and dared not even move a muscle. She was done in no time. Jung Yu-hwan balled up the tissue paper with the trimmed hair and tossed it into the trash can in the car before returning the pair of scissors to Secretary Chung. She sat back up and cocked her head while looking at her own handiwork. She then removed the string she used for her own hair and, smiling, tied up Lee Jinyuan's hair behind him. Secretary Chung turned around, took a look, and said, "Nice. Very fashionable. I think so too," said Jung Yu-hwan with a bright and beaming smile. "Whoa." Chung Ming looked up at her silently before turning away. "Let's go." Jung Yu-hwan turned, opened the door, and was the first to hop out of the car. Lee Jinyuan and Huo Chung-ming followed behind her. When the three of them got close to the entrance of the school, Lee Jinyuan and Huo Chung-ming could hear rumblings from not too far away. "Hey, look! Jung Yu-hwan is here. Didn't she run away? She's coming to school. If I were her, I'd first beat that woman at home to death, then beat the daughter she brought with her to death who cares about school." The original owner had never get along or have any relationships with any of these rich kids. Every student of this school was from well-off families and were all raised in a carefree environment. Naturally, they never had to learn the art of filtering what they were saying. There were always lots of gossip among the circle of rich people. When it comes to the Zhongs, it was definitely a fine topic to laugh about. Lee Jinyuan and Huo Chengming almost frowned at the same time, and both clenched their fists immediately. They didn't make too much of a fuss but quietly sized up the gossiping boys and girls. All of them were slightly older than them, but it was obvious that they came from an overprotected environment. Both of them arrived at the same conclusion that they would be able to take them easily when push comes to shove. By now, Jung Yu-hwan had already strolled up to them and said to the boy who last spoke, "Are you going to jail for me if I beat them to death? Or, I can pay you $5 million and you can go beat them to death for me. How's that?" Jung Yu-hwan was a pretty girl, especially when she approached you one step at a time. Her attractiveness was inescapable. The boy blushed uncontrollably and shouted stubbornly, "Do you think I need money? Oh, shut it. We all knew that you made your little brother from your dad's new wife cry and your pocket money was stopped for 2 months. You can barely afford your race car models now. My money should tie you over for 6 months or so." The boy swallowed whatever he had in mind and asked awkwardly, "Where did your money come from?" "From Zhongqi for me this month. He is still giving you money?" "And that much?" exclaimed the boy. "Who else is he going to give money to?" "Shu Yushan?" said Jung Yu-hwan with a smile. In her dreams. Amazing. This group of kids, which grow up with money, were so overprotected that they never truly grew up. They changed their minds all the time. All the ones who were raised with structures and emphasis on their education had already went to study abroad. They wouldn't be found focusing their attention on this school here. So this group of kids now surrounded Jung Yu-hwan and called out, "How did you do that? Man, that was quite incredible. That woman was even able to get into the doors of the Zhongs. She must be pretty good at plotting herself. And you were still able to get money from your dad?" Jung Yu-hwan pushed the crowd aside and said, "Stop blocking me. Didn't you see I have others with me?" The crowd finally all took a step back and gave her some room, but they were still staring at Jung Yu-hwan. Plenty of the wealthy at High City have lovers outside of their marriage. Some of them even brought them into their house and shared the same room with their wives. Most of the wives didn't care all that much so long as they have money to spend and keep themselves occupied. They may not care that much, but the kids were different. Particularly the young ones, they would hate for the illegitimate children to come and dip into their resources. Of course, they were merely kidding about beating someone to death. Nobody would be silly enough to give up their own future for the lives of the shameless ones. They all stared at Zhang Yuhuan and very curious how she was able to pull that off. Zhang Yuhuan, with her bunny backpack, turned around and walked in between Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. Then, turning and waving at Year. "The other wealthy kids," she said. "I am heading inside now." "Oh, come on, don't go yet, Zhang Yuhuan. Who are they? Your relatives? We have never seen them before." Everybody followed behind her as they chittered away. "My mom's adopted kids," said Zhang Yuhuan as she pointed at Huo Chengming, my older brother. Then, pointing at Li Jinyuan, "My younger brother." The other kids didn't give it too much thought, but busted out laughing at her introduction. "Ha ha 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 ha. Did that woman blow a gasket? Her son hasn't even been made official yet, has he?" Zhang Yuhuan nodded. "Nope." What she didn't say was, that was going to happen soon enough. Not much she could do to stop that one. The rest of them just found this funny. "How about we go hang out at your place tonight?" "Yeah, we want to go see your older sister." "Well, no, not really your sister. That girl that was born out of wedlock, to see how she feels about all this." Yeah. You guys talk too much," said Zhang Yuhuan, not wanting to engage with them. "As do you," said one of the girls as she looked at Zhang Yuhuan. "You didn't used to talk so much before." Someone next to her chimed in. "That's right. You don't always respond when others talk to you. You do roll your eyes at us a lot. My mom was sick back then. I didn't feel very talkative." "Yeah, I guess." Everybody laughed and joked around, and it didn't take very long before the mood has changed entirely. Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming never uttered a word, but they had quietly relaxed, their tightly gripped fists. It was just like they thought. Whenever she stood, that place would turn into the brightest spot. She was smart and pretty. She could easily overcome a situation like she was facing before and turned into the center of attention. Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming had never felt this way before. It felt as though they had seen a bright and shiny treasure that was being displayed at the best spot inside a display case. This treasure so powerful it'd suck one's soul in, and it made them desired her innately. But she wasn't somewhere where they could reach right now. The two boys looked up quietly at the school in front of them, and they felt a fire burning inside their chests. Secretary Chung quickly took care of all the registration paperwork. Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming were arranged to be in the same classroom, and the dean delivered their textbooks himself. The two of them observed everything quietly, taking them all in. They started to form a sense of awareness. A person must grow up before he has the ability to deal with all the hindrances in life. Otherwise, they'd be like those wealthy kids. Although they were from wealthy families, but due to their age, when something went against their ways, they had no rights to say no. Furthermore, a person must also have power, status, and wealth. It was only when one has all those, then you would have someone like the dean waiting on your hands and feet. That's why they need to grow up. They need to possess more before they could turn the table and take care of her. Their first day of school, and they had already made not too much but also not too little attention. Part of the reason was because they came with Zhang Yuhuan. The other part of the reason was because, even at their young age, they already understood physical attraction. Girls that age were already well aware of the differences between the two genders and started to catch a glimpse of what it was like to find a boy attractive. Li Jinyuan had on a shirt and long pants. After his bangs were trimmed, his clean and fair look was exposed. He was particularly attractive among the other boys who have yet to attain that stage, like the Japanese idols that the girls always liked on fashion magazines. Huo Chengming was also wearing a shirt and long pants, but he was the exact opposite type as Li Jinyuan. He was good-looking but also reserved, and a sense of meanness and standoffish feeling radiated from him. When school was out, everybody leaned against the railings looking at the two new boys flanking behind Zhang Yuhuan, like bodyguards. Someone said. The girl next to him rolled her eyes. "What do you know? They are like princes. Okay?" Liu Manman You are reading too much comics. They are like knights. You are reading too much comics, too. Do you think Zhang Yuhuan would let me borrow her older brother? What is your problem? Why would she lend him to you? I don't have an older brother. I want an older brother, too. Zhang Yuhuan returned home. Naturally, she didn't invite any of her schoolmates to join her. There was an air of awkwardness inside the Zhang's house. Xu Yunhui was sitting on the couch. She smiled at Zhang Yuhuan tenderly when she saw her coming through the door and said to her, Huan, perfect. I have something to talk to you about. Zhang Yuhuan didn't even pay her any attention. The Nans had sent over the invitation for you to go join the banquet at their house in the next couple of days. Zhang Yuhuan slowly took off her bunny backpack and, looking over at Xu Yushan, caught her turning away. Zhang Yuhuan had a pretty good idea how much brooding was going on inside of her. Zhang Yuhuan pursed her lips a bit and asked, Who else were invited? Your dad and I, smiled Xu Yunhui. Oh, said Zhang Yuhuan, drawing it out slowly, but not Xu Yushan. That was interesting. She knew full well what type of a person that young master of Nans was. He was kicked out of school 3 times while studying abroad and knocked up a underage girl. The Nan's influence couldn't reach that far, so it took them quite a bit of effort to finally settle all the matters and kept everything under wraps. Finally, running out of options, they made him return home. Now they just want to find him a virtuous wife, one that would stay home and take care of the chores at home, give them a few kids and never complain, and, most important of all, didn't care how many other girls he has on the side. Zhang Yuhuan truly didn't want this guy, which was why she bowed out so generously. She almost felt that Xu Yushan and this young master Nans just might be a match made in heaven. Now that they have invited her but not Xu Yushan, she gathered it wasn't for the influence of the Dings. Right now the Dings were run by her older aunt, someone whose talents were more on enjoying herself than management. The Dings hasn't been the same as what they were for a while now. The Nans was most likely doing this for the influence of Lang Jinji. She heard from Secretary Cheng that Lang Jinji was about to have another big promotion. The next day, Xu Yushan just hid inside the house and never went out. She had learned her lesson after the last defeat in front of Zhang Yuhuan. No matter how upset she was, she must contain herself. It was only after Zhang Yuhuan got inside the car with the boys and the car has left the Zhang's mansion before she dared to open up the window and stared outside with hatred. Zhang Yuhuan and the 2 boys adapted to the school life quite quickly. Zhang Yuhuan felt that the curriculum was super easy, so she was taking it in stride. As for Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming, their time at the welfare agency had been bad, so attending school was nothing in comparison. No matter how dry the materials were, they could still understand and absorb the knowledge. Shortly, it was already noontime. Zhang Yuhuan headed out as quickly as she could, and a few boys and girls still shouted out. Behind her, Zhang Yuhuan. Slow down! Have lunch with us! Let's go to Koi Palace! Wait for me, Zhang Yuhuan! Everybody was more or less from the same circle. There weren't a lot of one person looking down on another. Once they have put the past behind them, now all they wanted was to get close to Zhang Yuhuan and learn a thing or two from her. That's why there were also 1 or 2 of them following behind Zhang Yuhuan. They couldn't wait to learn her tricks so they too could get $1 or $2 million pocket money from their fathers. Zhang Yuhuan walked straight to the outside of Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming's classroom. She noticed that they weren't there. I think this period was physical ed for them. Someone told her, why don't we head to the gym and check it out for ourselves? So the rest of the group continued to follow Zhang Yuhuan like lemmings as they all headed toward the gym. Murphy High School had a particular big sport complex. It contained a completely independent basketball court, a soccer field, and ping pong area, etc. Finally, they all arrived at the basketball court. In grade school, everybody preferred ping pong or badminton, but boys of this age were already drawn into basketball. As soon as they arrived at the basketball court, Zhang Yuhuan finally found both Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. The two boys hadn't completely caught up with others their age yet, so they were at most considered mid-size compared to their peers. But now that they had removed Murphy's school jacket and unbuttoned the first few buttons for more ease of movement, one could see their not yet well-built adolescent chest. They were sweating, and their sweat moistened their hair, and a few strands of their hair stuck to their face. As young as they were, there was already a hint of pheromone being released. Ling Jushin and Huo Chengming probably hadn't had a lot of opportunities to encounter group sports like this during their stay at the welfare agency, so they were immediately addicted the first time they played. They both stared intently at the hoop, and it was surprisingly difficult for the other boys to take the basketball from them. Some of the people behind Zhang Yuhuan couldn't wait any longer and shouted in that direction, "Class is over! School is out for now! Let's go!" Huo Chengming tossed aside the basketball in his hand and stood at the same spot with his lips tightly pressed together. His head was still buzzing from being engaged at such vigorous activities. Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming looked toward the entrance of the basketball court almost simultaneously. Then they immediately picked up their uniform jacket and walked over. To Zhang Yuhuan almost in synchrony. They surely were the male lead and boss villain. Their attractiveness was already beginning to show. Zhang Yuhuan looked up at them and gave them a big smile. That was quite impressive. Not that impressive, stuttered Li Jinyuan. Huo Chengming couldn't even remember how to talk. He looked to and from Zhang Yuhuan's face. He looked some at her smile. Then after a while, he couldn't help but to look away. "Hurry up! I have already made a reservation at Koi Palace." Someone grabbed Zhang Yuhuan in a hurry. Zhang Yuhuan smacked away his hand and said, "Okay, start walking and, well, follow." Then she turned to the two of them and said, "Let's go get some lunch. Then take a nap after lunch before the afternoon classes." Even such a simple description from Zhang Yuhuan made them felt incredibly joyous and pleasant, as though their lives were now progressing forward at a steady pace, and they were finally doing the same thing as others their age. All of this had been simply unimaginable to them just not too long ago. Huo Chengming replied in a low voice, "Hurry up," said Zhang Yuhuan as she walked in front of them. The two boys followed her a bit, awkwardly. They even walked and wiped away their sweat with tissue paper at the same time. They had played entirely too long and sweated entirely too much. It was only after they have experienced this activity that they had never attempted before when they felt a sense of anxiousness. They were covered in sweat. Would she find them smelly? Subconsciously, they fell a few more steps behind her. It was Zhang Yuhuan who noticed that they fell behind and couldn't help, but turned around again and said, "Hurry up!" It was then when Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming finally sped up and hurried toward Zhang Yuhuan. The restaurant was not far from the school, just a few-minute walk from the school. It didn't take long for the young masters and misses to get to Koi Palace. The manager of Koi Palace came to greet them in person. All the students nearby were from rich families. The manager knew this very well and definitely would not ignore them just because of their age. As soon they have been seated in their very own private room, the manager brought the servers in to take their orders. After all the others had finished, with their orders, they quickly shove a menu into Zhang Yuhuan's hand and said, "Zhang Yuhuan, what do you want to order?" Zhang Yuhuan reached out her hand at the manager. "Give me another one." The manager quickly handed her another menu. Zhang Yuhuan handed the menu to both Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. "I am sure you are starving by now. Take a look and order what you want." The cover of the menu was even wrapped in a layer of silk, making it look even classier. Never mind being in such a fancy restaurant. Even being able to order their own food was something that they had never experienced before. "Hurry up," said Zhang Yuhuan as she leaned on the table and said, "Rush them softly. I am hungry." Her voice was soft, almost as soft as the hair flowing down onto her shoulder. It was as though she was being coquettish. There were so many dishes that they had never had before, but they worried that Zhang Yuhuan was hungry. So they just randomly picked a few dishes. Before handing the menu back to Zhang Yuhuan, Zhong Yuhuan did not take the menus from them, but nodded at the manager and said, "That will be all for now." The manager responded by taking the menus away. He returned shortly with tea and snacks. While everybody was waiting for the food to be served, they started giggling and chatting. Someone said, "Zhong Yuhuan, your fiancé is back. We heard there will be some sort of a banquet. We even got an invitation." Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming's ears perked up almost instantaneously and stealthily listening to the conversation. Zhong Yuhuan reached for the teapot to pour herself a cup of tea. Huo Chengming suddenly reached out for the teapot, took it, and quietly poured tea into Zhong Yuhuan's cup. Someone witnessed that and couldn't help but laughed. "It's so nice to have an older brother." The girl next to them rolled her eyes. "What's so good about that? My older brother wasn't nice to me at all." Zhong Yuhuan leaned on the top of the table again. With her head cocked, she stared at Huo Chengming and smiled. "Gay will be nice to me. For life, right?" Instantly, Huo Chengming turned beet red from his neck all the way up to the tips of his ears. His grip on the teapot tightened and he said softly, "Yes." He couldn't help but to look at her again. But by now, Zhong Yuhuan had already turned toward Li Jinyuan sluggishly and smiled. "What about you, Didi?" Said Li Jinyuan with a young and inexperienced smile. "I will be nice to you for life." Zhong Yuhuan felt very content. She looked at all the other rich kids, elated. You think my mom will let me go and adopt an older brother from the welfare agency?" sighed the girl sitting across from them. Zhong Yuhuan grinned and said, "You have a real brother. I think your mom will kill you." Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming exchanged a look quickly. Neither one of them were good at expressing themselves, so both of them remained quietly and didn't say anything else. Everybody headed back to school after lunch. The next few days more or less followed the same pattern. Everybody had lunch together. Everybody went home together. Days passed by steadily and happily. Before long, the day of the Nan's banquet arrived. The Nan's original plan was to have a more private banquet, but after Senior Mr. Nan had lunch with Zhang Qi, he changed his mind and had his wife also sent an invitation to Shu Yushan. Senior Mr. Nan didn't want to offend any parties, so he changed the private banquet to a less inclusive one, so the invitation to Shu Yushan didn't seem to stand out. Naturally, Shu Yushan went from being sad to happy. When the weekend arrived, she put on her best makeup and clothing and left to go to the banquet first with her mother. Zhong Yuhuan, on the other hand, spent more time picking out the proper outfits for both Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming before they left the house together. Almost half of the wealthy families attended the Nan's banquet. Even though Shu Yushan had spent a lot of time on dressing up, but being among all the others, she was at most a pheasant pretending to be a phoenix. Shu Yushan had not been to a lot of events like this one. She followed closely behind Shu Yunhui and dared not stay too far away from her. Shu Yushan looked around and noticed that most of the wealthy young masters and misses were around chatting, in groups. Almost all of them had known each other growing up. Naturally, they had already formed their own groups. Finally, young Master Nan had arrived. That was when Shu Yushan finally gotten brave and prepared to walk up to talk to him. But before she was even able to go up to him, she heard someone whispering, not too far away, "How come Zhong Yuhuan is just now getting here? She didn't come with her dad? They had a big fight not too long ago. Haven't you heard about it?" The one that came with Mr. Zhang today was his stepdaughter. Shu Yushan felt like a dagger had stabbed her in her heart when she heard the term stepdaughter. She gritted her teeth and looked toward Zhong Yuhuan. From her perspective, Zhong Yuhuan was still a child, no bust, no hip. What was there to look at? But she was disappointed as soon as she turned her head. Sometimes beauty wasn't always about having a big chest and a small waist, and dressed in a way to show off one's curves. Zhong Yuhuan had on a vermilion dress with a skinny waist, knee length, and her shapely legs showing off from below the dress. She was totally eye-catching and fully showed off her youth. Then, looking at her neck. A magnificent red ruby hung around her neck from a white silk band. It not only made her neck seem slim and long, but, at the same time, created the illusion that she was but a gem herself. It made others felt that she needed to be tended to carefully. She had immediately got the attention of everyone present at her young age. As for the two boys behind her, they had on perfectly fitted suits. They might be young, but it was already quite obvious that they had beautifully proportioned bodies. One of them was clean-cut and handsome, with red lips and white teeth. He looked like he was from some prominent families. The other one had very finely carved features. His mouth was shut tightly, and a hint of viciousness showing through his face. His loftiness and panache were already beginning to show through. Shu Yushan was so mad she almost passed out from anger. How could Zhang Yuhuan bring the two unrelated little bastards from the welfare agency to the banquet? Zhang Chi's daughter is so pretty. Someone sighed. Back then Mrs. Zhang was quite pretty too, but still the person speaking lifted up the wine glass and covered up the rest of her words. Eh? Who are those behind her? Someone asked curiously. Those were the boys that Mrs. Zhang let her daughter go and adopt for her from the welfare agency. Even Mr. Zhang had silently agreed to it. Didn't the next one bring a boy with her? I heard that these boys were not for the Zhangs. They were for the Dings. The Dings have no boys right now. Shu Yushan bit her lips hard. She couldn't make out what others said after that. She stared at the direction of Zhang Yuhuan and hoped that Zhang Yuhuan would come and pick a fight with her first. It looked bad for her, the older one, to pick a fight with her first. But Zhang Yuhuan had just got into the banquet hall before she was surrounded. It was by a group of young masters and misses. Those are Zhang Yuhuan's schoolmates, whispered Shu Yunhui softly into her ears. At your age, you won't be able to make friends with these second-generation rich kids in school. But what you can do is to attend these banquets more often, and, slowly, you will be able to make friends like these too. Shu Yushan nodded once. She was both envious and jealous inside. This was part of the benefits of entering into a wealthy family. Once you have crossed that line into the upper class, the resources you encountered were completely different. Shu Yushan looked over at young Master Nan ambitiously. At this moment, young Master Nan had already walked down the stairs and walked straight past Shu Yushan, and finally stopping in front of Shu Yushan. Young Master Nan was aware that he had a betrothal since he was a child. He had even made a special trip to check out her fiancé at the Zhangs once before, but when he was in junior high, Miss Zhang was still in grade school. Young Master Nan had immediately extinguished his desire to have early love. He had a huge fight with his family as soon as he got home and said, how could she become their daughter-in-law and his wife in the future? He then turned around and hooked up with his female classmate right away, and starting down the path of switching girlfriends after girlfriends. This was his second time meeting Zhang Yuhuan. As soon as he laid eyes on her, he was stunned. He was already of age and tall. He pushed away the others and stood in front of Zhang Yuhuan. Smiling, he asked, "Fiancé?" Zhang Yuhuan smiled and said, "You are kidding. Who is your fiancé?" It was totally different when those mean words came from a pretty person. Young Master Nan paused for a second and said, "Don't write it off. The purpose of me returning to this country is to marry you. It's illegal to be a pedophile." "You will go to jail," smiled Zhang Yuhuan. Young Master Nan was not angered by her sharp words. "I will take you to meet my parents." He was barely halfway through his sentence before he stopped abruptly. He stared straight behind her and paused before saying, "So vicious, which family are they from?" Zhang Yuhuan was baffled by his words. She turned around and looked. Li Jinyuan pressed his lips shut, and his look was cold. Huo Chengming was silent, and his features were drawn tight. So, which one of them threatened young Master Nan? Zhang Yuhuan took a step back to stand in between Li Jinyuan and Huo Chengming. She put her arms in both of the crooks of their arms and said, "I think you should go. I don't want you to get hit. Young Master Nan was stunned again. We have all heard of all your stories from overseas. I'm afraid my cousin would beat you up for talking to me. Lang Jinji was quite well known among this group of second-generation, wealthy kids. Just his name alone would make 9 out of 10 villains worry. Just thinking about his face was enough to intimidate young Master Nan. He forced a smile and said, "That would be so unnecessary. Why would he beat me up?" Despite what he was saying, he got the hint and stepped aside. But young Master Nan already had his mind set on Zhang Yuhuan and no longer had the interest to look at any other girls afterward. This one was too old. That one was too young, couldn't even tell if she'd be pretty after she grew up. This one was not elegant enough. That one wasn't pretty enough. After an entire round, young Master Nan was still unhappy with what he was seeing. This was when he was called over by his parents. "Come here, say hi to Uncle Zhang," said Senior Mr. Nan as he pulled young Master Nan in front of him. After they have greeted each other, Zhang Qi introduced the young woman standing next to him and said, "Young Master Nan, this is my daughter Yushan." Young Master Nan thought to himself, "What did your daughter have to do with me?" He turned and took a quick look. She certainly was big-busted, but he had encountered too many women with this type of mature charm and was no longer interested in them. On the other hand, Zhang Yuhuan was about to sneak out of the banquet hall with a group of second-generation wealth kids. Young Master Nan felt anxious as soon as he saw that. He thought about it. He didn't mind waiting for a few years for Zhang Yuhuan. She was so pretty that she was as good as 10 women. He would feel very bad for the rest of his life if she didn't become his. So young Master Nan dropped a very impatient, "All right, I got it," before he took off in the direction of Zhang Yuhuan. Senior, Mr. Nan was never that happy with Shu Yushan to begin with, so after his son took off he could only said helplessly, "Well, he was engaged to Yuhuan first after all." He was already going after her as soon as he had returned. Mrs. Nan, on the other hand, took a few more looks at Shu Yushan. She had given the whole thing much more thoughts. If Shu Yunhui could trap Zhang Qi, then naturally Shu Yushan would have learned a thing or two from her mother. She wasn't asking for much. She just needed Shu Yushan to appease her son enough to not act up and buckle down a bit, and focus on his schoolwork and career for a little while. She was just a stepdaughter anyway. If her son grew tired of her one day, he could always kick her to the curb and remarry. The smile on Shu Yushan almost froze. Shu Yunhui quickly pinched her from the back so Shu Yushan was able to barely recollect herself. On the other hand, young Master Nan ran out the door after them and followed them all the way to the parking lot. "Why are you leaving so soon?" He smiled and asked. Ho Chengming spoke out all of a sudden. "Why are you following her?" Young Master Nan smiled. "I am talking to her. This is none of your business." Ho Chengming suddenly grabbed young Master Nan on his collar and pulled him up. That totally caught young Master Nan by surprise. He hadn't expected Ho Chengming would get physical all of a sudden. Not to mention that Ho Chengming looked so young. When young Master Nan came to, he was already pinned down by Ho Chengming's. Ho Chengming wasn't as tall as young Master Nan, but now his face darkened. His tightened lips exuded an indescribable feel of viciousness like that of a young wolf. He had a lot of fighting experience when he was an orphan. He aimed only at the vital locations. First, it was a punch straight to the chest to stun the opponent. Then the fists rained down, focusing mostly on the head and face, letting his opponent had no breathing room to fight back. Let go. Young Master Nan struggled for a bit but wasn't even able to get up. He was pinned down tightly on the ground, with tears and snot flying out from pain. When had he ever been in a fight his entire life, let alone a fight so vicious? Young Master Nan didn't stand a chance at all. It was then when Li Jinyuan quietly walked over to the other side and gave young Master Nan a swift kick to his head. Zhang Yuhuan, She never thought that the young Master Nan would have been beaten up by Huo Chengming and Li Jinyuan before Lang Jinji even had a chance to. The rest of the second-generation rich kids all looked away simultaneously. They had not seen anything. Huo Chengming knew when to stop. When he figured he was done, he got back up. Young Master Nan struggled a couple of times before he was able to get back up from the ground. He dared not even look this way but turned around and ran away as fast as he could. The way Huo Chengming looked in his direction was deep and thoughtful. When he turned back to talk to Zhang Yuhuan, the deepness was gone. He said gently to her, "Don't worry. He won't cause any trouble. People like him, he would rather keep his image." When he walked, he purposefully avoided looking at Zhang Yuhuan as though he was afraid to catch a glimpse of shock, fear, or disgust from her. Zhang Yuhuan chuckled and said, I know. He got beaten up. Surely he wouldn't want anyone to find out about that. He had beaten up young Master Nan blatantly, and he was certain there would be no consequences. Had he beaten him up in a dark alley, and that young Master Nan didn't know who it was that beat him up? The Nans would probably think that it was one of their enemies, and would certainly turn High City upside down to find the culprit. One of the second-generation rich kids said, "He can say whatever he wants." He slammed his chest as he talked. He'd testify that it didn't happen. That's right. We didn't see anything. All the other kids bought into it. Young Master Nan left the country at an early age, and he was of a different age group from these kids. So none of them was particularly interested in siding with him. He could have been buried alive, and they wouldn't care about him. Young Master Nan's whole act was quite shameless to begin with. How old was that young Master Nan? And how old was Zhang Yuhuan? How could he come and harass her? Finally, Huo Chengming's tightened face relaxed. Zhang Yuhuan turned to Huo Chengming and smiled at him. "Thank you, Gege, for protecting me." The aura that could only belong to that of a young wolf just a minute ago was completely gone from Huo Chengming instantly. Pursing his lips, he said, "That's my responsibility. Let's go," said Zhang Yuhuan. "Yeah, let's go," urged the others around them, and they took off quickly. As they were walking outward, Zhang Yuhuan turned her head and looked at Huo Chengming. Huo Chengming was walking with an awkward gait. Zhang Yuhuan blinked in surprise. Was it really that impactful? To refer to him as Jige for once? Huo Chengming still hasn't recovered from that? On the other hand, young Master Nan returned to the banquet hall angrily. One step in and a dizzy spell almost caused him to tumble onto the floor. He raised his arm and rubbed his forehead before the feeling that his nose was about to start bleeding subsided. Mr. and Mrs. Nan were chatting with Zhang Qi when they saw their son enter in his current state. Their faces dropped and they asked, "What happened?" Young Master Nan opened his mouth and was just about to say, "The bastard kid that came with Zhang Yuhuan beat me up." But he stopped himself just in time. No matter how he phrased it, it would sound like a kindergarten kid ratting someone out. And exactly how old was he now? Could he say that he got beaten up by some kid? Never mind how embarrassing that was going to sound. Others might not even believe him. Young Master Nan lifted his hand and touched the wound on his face. He didn't want to embarrass himself. So, as difficult as it might be, he forced himself to swallow the words that was about to come out of him. "I was running after Zhang Yuhuan. I didn't make it in time and took a tumble. When Huo Chengming was striking him, he hit the same spot repeatedly. So, that was the only area that was particularly bruised. It did look like that was the spot that took a direct hit during a fall." Mrs. Nan's heart ached when she heard that. She gave young Master Nan a hug and comforted him. Xu Yushan was shocked from witnessing that scene. Of course she had heard about the crazy stories about him in the past, but she figured that was normal behavior for a rich young man like him and didn't think much about it. What she didn't expect was that young Master Nan, an adult, would behave so much like a child. That was a harder pill to swallow. Young Master Nan looked embarrassed from the fall. Given what had happened, Zhang Qi made up some excuse, ended the conversation with the Nans, and walked away with, Xu Yunhui. Xu Yunhui lowered her head and followed. Mr. Nan took a look at the departing Xu Yunhui and sighed. She doesn't come close to Zhong Yuhuan. But she is still so young. What is the point? Mrs. Nan frowned. Besides, we have all heard of her temper. When her dad brought Xu Yunhui into the house, remember all the scenes that she had caused? They even lost a business engagement because of her. She is going to fight, to yang day and night if he marries her. Mr. Nan scoffed. What do you know? Are you aware of Lang Jinji's current status? On the other side, the only thing that young Master Nan could think about right now was that he wanted Zhong Yuhuan, bad. She's so incredibly pretty. Even just having her at home would make him happy. The only reason that Zhong Yuhuan showed up at the banquet was to pick on Xu Yunhui and her daughter. She wanted everyone in the upper-class social circle to know that she, Zhong Yuhuan, was still the one and only daughter of the Zhongs. Once she had made her appearance and her point, she had lost all interest to stay. That's why she just took off, with the rest of the second-generation rich kids. Naturally, they have their own form of entertainment. After leaving the banquet, they headed toward a high-end club. The manager at a high-end club knew how to cater to his customers. He knew how to alter the normal program when he saw this ground of young, wealthy kids. "Let's play pool!" someone shouted. Then, turning to Zhong Yuhuan, do you know how to play pool? Zhong Yuhuan nodded. Of course. Great. Let's start with that then, and bring some gaming consoles too.